So to start this video off, I have to say that I strongly believe that universities and colleges are rather outdated for numerous reasons, and we'll quickly get into those. So to start with, the average cost of a degree has been growing year after year, quickly making it unrealistic for many people to acquire a full education. These spiking costs lead to people taking out huge loans in order to get the education they desire, often without a good return on their investment. The rising costs are not such an issue to the upper class, those that can easily afford to throw out thousands of dollars. But for those in the middle and lower classes, it is increasingly difficult to start and complete secondary education. It is not just the rising tuition costs that pose an issue, however, as accommodation costs are constantly on the rise as well. And on top of that, students often need to buy expensive textbooks to succeed in the courses they are enrolled in. Most students work minimum wage jobs throughout their degree, which tends to barely cover the costs of textbooks and accommodation, not to mention living, leaving their tuition costs practically uncovered. Without big scholarships, and sometimes even with such scholarships, students will be left in a huge amount of debt by the time they have completed their degree. This leaves fresh graduates in a mad dash to find some sort of employment that can start to pay off the massive loans that they took to finish their degree, with minimum wage jobs not doing good enough for paying off these debts. Those who start a degree and realize that they don't want to pursue further education, or that they simply took the wrong subject and realize that they actually have interest in a different major, typically have an even worse time with this problem. Dropouts get stuck with a fairly large debt and no degree to show for it, forcing them to take whatever work they can to pay off their loans. Those who switch their major at any point throughout university will then have to deal with a larger loan, as it'll take them even longer to get their degree, and they will potentially have to take extra courses if a lot of the courses they already took aren't relevant to what they changed it to. Now, with the financial issues mentioned, what would be the positives of going? Well, furthering one's education tends to lead to more job opportunities and typically an easier time in acquiring said jobs. The best paying jobs tend to be tied to the requirement of a university education, so getting a degree can be very useful in terms of getting a good income. However, just because someone gets a degree doesn't mean that they're going to get a good job quickly, or even at all. There is the classic joke that getting a psychology or sociology degree is just going to land someone a job at Starbucks for the rest of their life. Now, this is obviously hyperbole, but it does point to the issue that some degrees tend to be valued a lot higher than others, even if they all require roughly the same amount of financial investment. A degree in computer science comes with far more job opportunities than a degree in sociology, and thus on average a person will get employed faster and for better pay, but it's not a guarantee either. The next big draw would be the potential for social growth, meeting new people, making useful connections for your future. However, with current events, COVID, much of university has been pushed to a more online style, taking away the opportunity for social growth. A big issue with this point is that some people are not particularly social and don't enjoy meeting new people, like me. So for these people, this reason for going isn't worth much attention at all and can be largely ignored. The next big reason to go would be to further one's education, to become smarter, and to get better knowledge of subjects that interest them. There are also issues with this, as many will attend university immediately after high school, and they don't really actually know what interests them yet, leading them to either drop out or switching majors. If someone wants to become super knowledgeable in a field, university is a great fit. But most people just want to get a degree so that they can get a nice job at the end of it and be done with school. There are certainly reasons to go to university, however the monetary issues that come with getting that further education can outweigh those reasons, making it not worth your time or your money. Now for a few more personal anecdotes, I was personally lucky enough to have a family that was very supportive of me getting a full education and made sure that I did go to university. They made sure I was getting good enough grades to get to the places that I did want to go to, Some people won't get that push or support from their family. I was also lucky enough to not have to move for my education, and lucky enough that the burden of the cost was shouldered by my parents. I still worked on the weekends because I wanted to enjoy life, but I didn't have to take on major loans, and I didn't have to spend both weeks and weekends working a job while also studying. Finances aside, I still had big issues with university. Personally, I hated the social aspect of university. As a complete introvert, I couldn't stand having to be around so many people daily, and often opted to sit in the back of lectures and avoid any talking when possible. I spent my days going from lecture to lecture, listening to music, and staying to one side, going unnoticed. Except when I saw friends that I already knew. The social aspect was certainly not a draw for me. I didn't care for it at all, and was actually quite glad when COVID forced universities to go online towards the end of my degree. When I started my degree, I had no idea what I was getting into. High school fails to prepare kids for university, an issue that I will likely make a video on shortly. I didn't know what my degree was about. Actuarial science isn't a subject that gets thrown around casually like computer science or any type of engineering. It's not something you hear of in your daily life. I didn't realize that I wasn't particularly interested in the core topics of the subject, that being statistics, until I was done my second year, throwing a wrench in my chances to switch degrees. My grades were struggling at the time, as the transition from high school to university is a rough one for anyone, even those with the best studying, and I never studied well. Due to my lacking grades, I was left without much options for switching my degree, and I was in the end forced to settle on a general mathematics degree. This is why I think it's important for people starting university to have an appropriate amount of time to decide what they want to do and to figure out what actually interests them before making such a big investment. Luckily, I do enjoy math, but it's not like I'm crazy in love with the subject. By the time I reached the end of my degree, I had no clue what I was going to do for work. A general math degree is a bit broad. Most would either use a degree to do more school and become a teacher, or end up working in a university as a professor or a researcher. I knew I wanted nothing to do with school by the time I was finally done, but that meant I was left hopelessly searching for any job that my degree could get me. I personally know people who have taken degrees with far more direct applications, such as engineering and computer science, and they got unlucky and had to search for months for a job, even up to a year. I luckily managed to get an interview only a few months after graduating, and managed to land a job nearly immediately after that. Had I not gotten lucky in landing the interview, it would have been likely a year or more of job searching due to the lack of places to put a math degree to use, especially without any sort of specialization, as I just took a broad general mathematics degree. There are, of course, much cheaper universities to going to university and getting a degree, and more are created every year in this modern age. Before the last decade or so, people were stuck with either university degrees or slightly cheaper alternative of diplomas and certifications in trade skills in order to get better paying jobs. These diplomas typically take half as long to get and are usually much more affordable to get due to this, but often lead to less comfy, rougher jobs that aren't as modern. However, in recent years, a lot of alternatives to university degrees have been created. There are many online courses that can be taken for topics like computer science that offer certifications that are arguably far more useful than a degree. These courses have much more direct applications and allow for people to be more specialized in specific areas and show better sense of knowledge, in my opinion. The majority of online courses I've seen are tech related, teaching different languages for coding or teaching specific topics in coding. However, online courses are a great alternative as they are far cheaper than getting a full degree and can also be done much faster. Some can take a couple months. Some, if you're good at your topic and you're smart and hardworking, they can be done in less than a week. Looking back on my own experience once more, I had to take so many options to fill out my degree and graduate that I even ended up getting a minor due to the ridiculous amount of options I was forced to take. Taking online courses avoids this pointless waste of time and money by allowing people to focus solely on the topics they are interested in and need to take. They also provide much more use even after acquiring a job through the information that one gets from taking them. An online course will provide much more applicable knowledge than a university degree, being more directly related to jobs rather than being a boost of overall knowledge. Past university, the courses taken to get a degree don't tend to be that useful. I could count on one hand how much I've used what I learned in university outside of university. So in the end, is it really worth it? Is it worth the time and financial investment to get a degree? Well, it's a difficult question to answer, and it's certainly different for everyone, but in the majority of cases, I would personally say no. If your family is rich and could easily afford to send you off to a university, given you've got the right grades for it, then it makes perfect sense and is a certainly good idea. However, if your family is not so well off and can't afford to help support you through the process of getting a degree, it becomes a lot more difficult to answer. If you're a brilliant student and can get access to plenty of scholarships, it definitely makes sense to pursue further education, as financial troubles won't be such an issue. However, an important factor on deciding whether or not you should go is also whether or not you have interest in a particular topic that university gives a degree for. You have to take the time to figure out what you're interested in before you go. This is important because if you aren't sure of what you want to do or what topics interest you, then it doesn't make much sense to make such a large commitment. With the rise of more options outside of university, it makes less and less sense to commit to a degree, and also allows people to choose more suitable alternatives. The question of whether further education for university is worth it or not comes down to an individual and the interest that they have, along with how willing they are to deal with the financial stress that comes with further education and the time commitment. But seeing as the majority of society aren't millionaires, I'd say on average it's better to pursue alternative, more affordable options that will get you better work quicker.